Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of HAZRATH MAULANA QAMAR Sahib Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Monday morning at about 9:30 a.m. at Baitul Azkar in Wasiabad, Allahabad, UP, India. Monday, the 9th of Jumadul Akhirah, 1444, corresponding with the English date 2nd of January 2023. Hazrat Wala starts off by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Hazrat Wala says, it is the tafsir of these ayat that bring in front of us all of suluk and tasawwuf. We need to take the nafs or things that adopt those things that will take the nafs and put the nafs onto the right path. And there are many other things that would take the nafs and take the nafs off that straight path. Now, after much efforts, toiling, sacrifice, sitting morning and evening, at home or in travel, seated or in the car, that we have ease now that we have the kitab in front of us. قال الشيخ أبو الحسن الشاذلي رضي الله تعالى عنه أوصاني حبيبي فقال لا تنقل قدميك إلا حيث ترجو ثواب الله تعالى. My beloved advised me thus, do not walk to any place except where you hope for Allah's reward. Allahu Akbar. ولا تحبس إلا حيث تأمن غالبا من معصية الله تعالى. Do not confine yourself to a place unless you feel that you are most likely to be safe from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا تصحب إلا من تستعين به على طاعة الله تعالى. And do not be in the company of anyone except the one who will help you in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا تصطفي لنفسك إلا من تزداد به يقينا. And do not select anyone as a bosom friend except the one who will increase your conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقَلَّ مَا هُمْ. Such people are very few. Or he said something similar in meaning. So, min husni islamil mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'nih. From the beauty of the Islam of an individual is that he abandons that which is useless, futile, and does not concern him. Hazrat Wala says, just here in Bakhshi Bazaar, you would see all those apartments and flats which students come and they rent. And then you would see till late hours of the night they are sitting and they are studying. They're doing all of this here because they want to pass for the exams that they are writing in. This is what they are doing for their dunya. وقال أيضا رضي الله تعالى عنه من دلك على الدنيا فقد غشك. The Shaykh rahimahullah also says, the one who directs you to this world has deceived you. وَمَنْ دَلَّكَ عَلَى الْعَمَلِ فَقَدْ نَصَحَكَ. The one who directs you towards good actions has desired your well-being. وَقَالَ أَيْضًا رَضِيَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَنْهُ. And the Shaykh radiyallahu ta'ala also goes on to say, اجعل التقوى وطنك. ثم he added and he says, make piety your homeland. Make piety your homeland. ثم لا يضرك مرج النفس ما لم ترضى بالعيب أو تصر على الذنب أو تسقط منك الخشية بالغيب. He added, make piety your homeland. If you do, the rebelliousness of your nafs will not harm you as long as you are not happy with your faults and you do not persist in sin, and or you no longer fear the unseen, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Shaykh goes on to say, قلت وهذه الثلاثة هي أصول البلاء والآفات. He goes on to say, these three things are the sources of misfortunes and calamities. Misfortunes and calamities. رأيت فقراء هذا الوقت ابتلوا بخمسة أشياء. He also says that I observed the dervishes of our time being caught up in 5 things. Number 1, إيثار الجهل على العلم, giving preference to ignorance over knowledge. Number 2, الاغترار بكل ناعق, becoming deceived by all and sundry. You go and you impressed, rather you deceived by all and sundry. والطهور في الأمور, carelessness in matters of sharia. والتغرر بالطريق, being conceited. Number 4, by their ways. And number 5, واستعجال الفتح دون شرطه, seeking success without having fulfilled its prerequisites. Hazrat Wala is saying that a kitab is read just for a few minutes. We're not prepared to sit in that lesson for those few minutes, but so many valuable points are mentioned in that kitab, and reading that for a little while. But we'll go outside and then we'll stand for so long, not bothered about anything, rather speaking in futile. Inna lillahi ibadan futana, definitely for Allah there are some very intelligent servants of His. طلقوا الدنيا وخافوا الفتنة, they abandoned the world, divorced the world, and they fear trials, tribulations and fitnas. نظروا فيها, they looked in it and studied it carefully. فلما علموا أنها ليست لحي وطنا, they came to know, when they came to know that this place is not a homeland, a place to reside for any living person. When they came to this conclusion, جعلوا صالح الأعمال فيها سفنا, جعلوها لجة واتخذوا فيها صالح الأعمال فيها سفنا. Then they made this dunya an ocean, or a place full of water. And how do you move about and move around and get your way around and get to do things? They made their vessel, their boat in it, nothing other than good deeds. We learn, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, Hazrat Wala is saying when he taught us Riyadus Salihin, and we came across this in the Muqaddamah of Riyadus Salihin, this Ash'ar, which Imam Nawawi had mentioned. He said, write these down for me. I done so. He took it and he kept it at his bedside for so many long years. We learn from all of this that our Buzrugane-e-Deen also look at those things, listen to those things, and which they are impressed with. They even note it down and they keep on looking at it, reading it, because it serves of great benefit to them. Now in this dunya, हर बड़ी चीज़ के हुसूल के लिए करना पड़ता है. That when you want to achieve these great goals and things, then you have to do something and something. So then tell me, akhirat ke liye? For the akhirat you think that we just will get everything and we don't have to do anything? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was walking, and then he heard the sound of shoes behind him, due to which immediately he sat down. immediately he sat down. And what was this all about? Hazrat Tanvi rahimahullah completed his entire kitab with this particular narration, that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam also feared at that time. Rather, he was making nigrani and looking carefully at his nafs and his heart. He had fikr for his islah. Allah Ta'ala give us that tawfiq. So the Nabi of Allah feared that oh, there's so many people walking behind me and this and that, and immediately he sat down. So Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us to traverse and walk this path and reach our destination. Our Buzrugan-e-Deen also feared tremendously. Rasulullah, okay, let's continue. Where is it? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up in the masjid and he made an announcement asking that, am I owing any person anything? Meaning, after he had actually completed paying everyone off, he still was so concerned about that he made that announcement and asked. More than that, on one occasion Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up and said, did I hurt, harm or strike any person? And if I did, please come and take your revenge. If I struck you while you had your clothes on, you had something covering your back, then strike me in that way. And if I struck you when you were bareback, your shawl was off, then come and strike me in that same way. Allahu Akbar. So we just think and we want to see everything without any type of efforts. Here, Imam Ghazali rahimahullah is saying, Al-Ahwal Thamaratul A'mal, that conditions and spiritual states, these high spiritual states, they are the fruits of the a'mal that we carry out. So consequently, people succumb to 5 things. They give preference to bid'ah over sunnah, and they cast aside the truth and follow falsehood. They act on their nafs and their desires in every matter. They seek futile things to the exclusion of realities, and they make claims without honesty. They make claims, ظهور الدعاوي دون صدق. Now Hazrat Wala here is saying, this da'awi kadhiba. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab had a special mazmoon and article. This was one of his favorite topics, da'awi kadhiba, where a person would come and claim. You know, sometimes a person has these traits and qualities, good things that he has achieved, and then he goes out and saying this and that and the other. I've achieved this, that and the other. That's evil. That's wrong. And the other one is a person doesn't even have that, and then he goes out saying that I've achieved this, I done this, I feel this, and I've reached here, this, that and the other. Inna yasira riya shirkun, that the slightest amount of riya, that is shirk. In fact, Allah Ta'ala speaks about this in the Quran regarding those people, that they haven't achieved anything, but they go around wanting people to praise them. يُحِبُّونَ أَن يُحْمَدُوا بِمَا لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا. They want people to praise them regarding those things which they did not even do in the first place. This is definitely a great sickness. Now, marne mein kya deri hai? In passing away, what's so far about that? Now we continue. It's experiencing whisperings, the wasawis, in acts of worship. In acts of worship. So here, Hazrat Wala is saying that many people come speaking about this type of problem, that I don't have khushu in salat, this, that, and the other. And then Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to say, Abhi tum aaye, that listen, you just came now. You just came now. You hardly arrived. Dhire dhire aayega. Give it some time, it will come. Okay, let's continue. Following habits without hesitation. Listening to singing. This is also something else. In fact, I've even met and seen such people that were so meticulous about this particular point that they would not even want to listen to ash'ar which are sang in a melodious tone, I mean, which there is no problem with, but they would even stay away from that. Intermingling with people in normal times and trying to incline them to one's self. So you're meeting with people and you want them to become inclined to you. Remaining in the company of worldly people, even women and children. Apne ko bachao. Save yourself. Look after yourself. Protect yourself. If you look after yourself here, then on that side you're going to get ma la aynun ra'at, wala udhunun sami'at, wala khatara ala qalbi bashar. So you will see then there which no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard about, and did not even pass the heart and the mind of any person. So there also Hazrat Wala is saying that the ulama will be blessed with such type of ulum and ma'arif which they never ever passed their hearts and minds before that. You know, there was one ustad of Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, and at night he used to sit and make mutala, and then he used to come across something which would astonish him, a certain mazmoon or article or ajib nukta, subtle points, nikat, and then cheekh nikalti thi. He would let out that screeching takbir, Allah, or this or that or the other, and then people would, Hazrat, what happened? And he said, no, I found this here. I was looking for it for such a long period of time. So sometimes we would say that there's some type of bitterness, talqi, in amal. You need to do something. You must make an effort. You have to wake up. You have to do this. However, in knowledge, there is only sweetness and only sweetness. However, I would say that if a person is on the sahih tariq, that a time will even come that there will be no bitterness in amal, rather there will only be sweetness and only be sweetness. Hazrat Tanwi, it was said to him about wasawis and these whisperings of shaitan. So then he said, and he gave a fantastic example by saying, don't you see when it's dark what a mock the mice make? They're running from this side to that side because they're fearless that everyone is now sleeping, so they can do what they want. They're jumping around from one corner to the other corner. And then he says, just do one thing and then you'll have peace. He says, on the lights. And the minute you put on the lamp, you light the candle, you're on the lights, there's complete silence, they've all run into their holes. So he says, this is the same thing. When you are bothered, when you are troubled by wasawis and whisperings, then at that time, on the lantern and the chirag of your heart, by carrying out the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you do that, these devils and shaitans that are running havoc in your mind and in your heart, running from one side to another side, they will all run into their holes. Allahu Akbar. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah used to say that study carefully what was your condition before wudu and what was your condition after wudu. Tajidul farqal bayyin. You would find an open and a clear distinguishing difference between the two. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, we speak about nur, What about the nur? The hadith teaches us that the nur, the parts of wudu will have such nur on the day of Qiyamah. It is for that reason Imam Abu Hanifa used to even exaggerate when making wudu, that making far over and long beyond the parts that are required to be washed, meaning he would take it a little bit more over that part. So what about on the day of Qiyamah? You know, we speaking here in this dunya, we all searching and looking for the nur of the heart and waiting for the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come in our hearts. But the nur of the zahir, the nur of the outward, is such that on the day of Qiyamah, when the nur of the heart witnesses the nur of the limbs which were touched by the water of wudu, then the nur of the heart at that time will become ashamed, looking at how great the nur of the external is. Allahu Akbar. On one occasion, there was this person saying to his Shaykh, Hazrat, I see nur. And he says, be silent, shut now. And then what does he say to him? Don't get too excited and too happy. This is only the nur of your wudu. You have hardly started. You didn't even take the first step. Allahu Akbar. A Sahabi was about to be executed, and then what did he say? Give me some time and chance, I want to perform 2 units of salat, 2 rak'at. And then he was given that chance. He performed it very concisely, completing, and then he says that I actually, my heart's desire was to perform 2 long rak'ats of salat because of the peace and the sukoon that I get, but I only performed it concisely out of the fear of the thought coming into you people's minds that I'm fearing of punishment, and that's why I'm taking a long time to perform salat. So this wudu, the nur of it is not just something ordinary or simple, it is very, very great. Hazrat Maulana Abrarul Haq was very, very particular. I mean, to such an extent, he did not even want to make from the null. He would want to have it as original as possible. He would like to have the water in the lota and in that utensil, that small bucket that is used for wudu, the lota, the small container. Whatever wilayat there is, it is all found in this wudu and in the salat. What is the essence of wudu? Al-wudu, al-infisalu anil khalq. Wudu is actually distancing yourself from the makhluk, from ghair, everything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the essence of salat? Salat is al-ittisalu bil-haq, where a person goes and he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sa'id used to say, and remind me that once he came here and my wife was here. It was his mother also. So what would we say? He came in and she said, sit. I just want to finish up with my maghrib. And then he sat and 45 long minutes passed. And thereafter she said, okay, come Saeed, sit, talk to me, tell me what this and what that. Until today he thinks about that how particular she was about her nawafil, how they read their salat, etc. Hazrat Wala even then goes on to say that how she used to perform her salat and how she used to carry out her ibadat. When it was time for me to leave and I was going for salat, and I would leave and I used to say at that time, I'm going now, I'm going, and then she would say, yes, continue, I'm getting up as well. Well, what can I say? What can I say? She was challenged with the eyesight. In fact, we tried to make so much ilaj this way and that way. She would get Abdullah and Ubaidullah to even read the letters. But on the other hand, so astonishing that on sometimes she would take the thread and put it through the hole of the needle. And I would go on saying, how are you doing that? And how are you managing? Can you see that? And she would say, of course I can see. Do you think I can't do anything? Of course I can see that. Okay, So they have also been deceived by stories and statements of the Sufis. Had they investigated, they would have realized that they are concessions for weak ones, and had they investigated, they would have realized that this rukhsat, it is concession for the weak ones, and opting them is only permissible to the extent of necessity without any excess. Thus, only that person who is far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will practice on them. Furthermore, sama, listening to music and the qawwali, is a concession only for the one who is in a state of ecstasy, or for the one who has reached a state of spiritual perfection. It entails a fall from the level of truth, provided full consideration is given to its people, the place and the etiquette. Ignorance of the sunnah or corrupt thoughts in the mind are the fundamental reasons for experiencing whispering. Now just listen to that. Ignorance, jahalat of sunnat and corrupt thoughts in the mind are the fundamental reasons for experiencing whisperings and wasawis. Directing people towards one's own self entails turning them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is especially so when it is done by a flattering scholar, a heedless tyrant, and an ignorant Sufi. Remaining in the company of young boys is a darkness and a blight on one's worldly and dini life. Accepting their sweet and soft words and nuisances is a major temptation and tribulation. It is a major temptation and tribulation. Here, Hazrat Wala is saying, on one occasion I heard this Misri Alim speaking, and then he goes on to say to his audience, he quotes the hadith of Allah subhanahu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Who is he advising? He is advising a young lad, Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, who is at the age between 8 and 10 years old, but he is giving him the ta'aleem of tawakkul, and he's giving the ta'aleem of yaqeen and isti'anat in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he looks at his gathering and he says, what to do? You people who have reached the age of 60 and 70 today do not even know the meanings of these terminologies. What to do? How sad, and alas, what a pity. Thereafter Hazrat Wala goes on to quote. He says, قال سيدي Abu Madyan radiyallahu ta'ala an, Sheikh Abu Madyan radiyallahu ta'ala an goes on to say that a youngster is the one who does not comply with your path, even if he is a 70-year-old man. Allahu Akbar. I say a youngster is the one who does not remain firm on one condition. He accepts everything that is offered to him. He accepts everything that is offered to him. Anything that's put in front of him, he takes it. So he's saying, we're speaking about youngsters, we're speaking about people who are young, immature. So what does he say? He says, who are those people? He says, the person who does not comply with your path. He is a youngster, even though he is a 70-year-old man. Even though he is a 70-year-old man. Allahu Akbar. So now I'm asking you, is this not Quran and Sunnah? You will say it is suluk. But all of this here is completely proven from Quran and Hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِحُرْمَةِ سَيِّدِ النَّبِيِّ الْكَرِيمِ صلى الله عليه وسلم.